Today I have a very special treat for you guys. It's been a minute since we interviewed public adjuster. Today we have one local here to Minneapolis, public adjuster from Minneapolis, St. Paul, Sam Cook. Thank you for stopping by, brother.
Thanks for having me.
So, Sam, your story. You've been a contractor, now you moved from. I don't see a lot of contractors going to public adjusting, especially in markets like Midwest, because contractors here are always busy, but I guess PAs are also busy. Let's start with your journey. How long you've been a contractor? How long you've been PA? Why did you make that switch?
Yeah, well, back in 2020, as with a lot of people, life changed, and so went from a corporate job over into doing door-to-door sales. So that's only 5 years ago now, and very quickly had a lot of success on the door-to-door. I had left for a moment. I had some rental properties that I was managing, and that's my background's in residential reconstruction, rebuilding, restoration of some older homes that I had. So I did that for a short while and then decided to get back in the contracting space, but I knew I didn't want to get back into the sales side. Although the money's great, the absolute 12 hours a day, nonstop, as you know more than anyone, of the door-to-door grind is a different beast. And so I got into supplementing for a company and doing the estimating, arguing with insurance companies. And so they had a backlog of a year or two worth of supplements, and I got it caught up by that following spring. They were able to build all the jobs, be profitable on them. And that's where I really found my niche. So I did that for a while. Ended up moving companies over to a different Minneapolis company that operated in a few different states, and they had a whole supplement team. So I joined their supplement team, worked up the ranks there, and started to learn that all the different states. I always thought, being just in Minnesota was unique, and I got in all other states. I'm like, the code changes very little from state to state. The policies aren't that different. Well, through that relationship with that contractor and doing so many supplements, I've handled thousands of supplements myself directly. I realized that a lot of times they would stonewall a contractor with policy language. And although I had a feeling they were misinterpreting it, I didn't know policy well enough. As a contractor, I thought I knew it, but I really wanted to deep dive into it. So late last year, I dove in, got my PA license, started studying policies, started my PA firm. We've grown a ton, obviously. We're working in 8 different states, and that's grown through relationships I had built while I was in the contracting space. But to your point, that there is a very few people that go from the contractor side to the PA side. And that was always an annoyance for me, is there'd be time I would be talking to a PA and they wouldn't even understand how, what starter even looks like on a roof, or, how the underlayment manufacturer specs. And on the contracting side, the way you argue things about repairability and construction methods, very few PAs have that tool in their pocket. They would always just rely on policy or direct damage. As you know, it's got a lot harder. So that's what pushed me into the PA world, is to be able to leverage the contracting experience and actually be able to speak construction with contractors, speak their language, but offer a service to them that they need.
Love it. What I love about this guy already is you have this fresh energy in you. I've talked to plenty of PAs, plenty of contractors who, for lack of a better word, like depressed, and keep stating that industry is changing, insurance game is changing. 20 years ago it was this easy and now it's this hard. You've been in it for 5 years and you have that fresh drive, enthusiasm, if you will. Do you see insurance game changing in the past 5 years? Do you see it changing for worse, for better? Where do you see opportunities now? Because you've been in supplementing, you've been in construction trades, and now you're on a PA.
Yeah, there's been a huge swing. The last 5 years has been very volatile in the markets in general, not even directly with the insurance, right? Every industry has been changing a lot, and I just don't think that ours is anything different. And although a lot of people treat it as this special one-off case, I don't think that is. During 2020, money and interest rates were so low that insurance companies, they were making hand over fist money, and a lot of people weren't going door to door, weren't filing claims. So they had, in my mind, a surplus that they'd be paying out for claims. If you remember back in really prime COVID, they weren't even sending adjusters out. As a contractor, they would send you a link, say, take the photo, send us the estimate, we'll just approve it. So I think
that was easy.
It was easy. But same as myself, a lot of people came from this 2020, lost an office job, corporate job, got into roofing sales. A lot of people I talked to in this industry, their career started in 2020 because roofing sales was one of the, storm restoration was considered, what was the term they used? Not critical, but, important. So a lot of people got into it. And that's how they start off. They thought that was the normal. Essential. They were essential employees. And so a lot of people start off and just thought that was normal. Now we're getting back to reality. Insurance pays for what they owe. They're going to put up a fight. That's part of their business model, as it should be. And so I don't think that we're really in an extreme spot. I keep hearing terms like the gold rush is over and this and that, but That's in every industry, right? Look at stock market, look at auto sales over the last few years. Every industry has gone through this influx. And my team, I got a couple of public adjusters and a lot of contractors I work with, and they always say, hey, should I get out of this industry now? Like, is storm restoration dead? And I'm like, well, probably not. I mean, I would imagine hail's going to keep falling from the sky, storms are going to keep happening, and people are going to still have damages they need fixed. But I think it's a pendulum, right? It's going to swing. We had 2020, it swung way in our favor. Everything got approved, policies weren't super strict, deductibles were low. Now we're swinging this way. But just like everything in this nation, we have checks and balances. And you'll see when insurance companies were getting destroyed by hurricane after hurricane, storm after storm, 2020 to 2023, they were losing money year after year. They were taking a beating. Well, they're going to go and lobby and go to legislation and say, hey, we need brakes on this. We need.
Do you believe in that? Do you believe they were losing money because their financials? I mean, when you collect 60, 70 billions a year and you pay out 5, how can you lose money?
I wouldn't say necessarily lose money, but maybe not hitting their goals, right? Maybe their year after year levels weren't at where they were expecting. So when you get into that side, they were on a decrease. Well, like any company, you want to grow every year. And so if you're in Minnesota, and last year in Minnesota you made $10 billion, and this year you made 9, and you think you're predicting, well, next year I'm only going to make 8, you go to legislator and say, hey, I need to be able to charge more, or I need to be able to exclude things from the policy, or we're getting pounded here. So I don't think they necessarily lost money, but lost money or were below where their goals were. So that pendulum swing is gonna come back the other way, right? When these insurance companies are denying claims at a record rate, which you've seen a lot of studies on recently, when they start making huge profits and they go in front of you, saw with Senator Hawley a few weeks ago, a month ago, pounding Allstate about, you made all these record profits. Well, that
was amazing grilling.
It was beautiful. And to see that, and it's one of those things here in the whistleblowers, we all know that stuff happens. But if the insurance companies are threatening to leave states, we're not going to be here anymore like you see them doing in California and Florida, legislation is going to have no choice but to bend and flex to them a little bit. When they start making profits again, it's going to be a huge uptick.
So just power play. Do you feel we have too many contractors, too many storm chasers?
It's a loaded question because I think there's too many and there's too many good ones, right? You can never have too many good contractors. I think mom and pop and everything would be great, but most people I talk to, if you go walk down the street and just ask someone, hey, name a roofing company. Someone's not in our industry, they can't. They might think of Sella or someone in Minnesota that's been around for 100 years, but that's it, right? They're not going to be able to think of a roofing company. I think the detriment's not that there's too many. I think that they're not unified, right? When you look at a lot of these, they're fragmented. I think that's going to be their detriment more than anything.
How do you see AI changing the game? Because I feel like supplementing insurance games, anything to do with the claim, with the manual work, that's where AI has the most advantage. Why do we need, not adjusters per se, but supplementers, right? Like you can just give it data to Xactimate with the help of AI, boom, here's your estimate, nothing to argue. I mean, just maybe fine tune it.
Yeah.
How's it changing? What do you see right now?
I would look back, history repeats itself, right? And when Xactimate came out, it was, well, I don't even need an estimator anymore. I had a team of 5 or 6 estimators as a storm restoration contractor. Now I have a software in 10, 15 minutes, I can write an estimate for a roof that's spot on, that insurance will approve. And so when Xactimate came out, people in this industry probably have the same, I wasn't here for that, but probably the same sense. Is estimating dead? And I think AI is going to be just another lever of that. Well, is supplementing dead? Is arguing dead? Are we just going to have our AI bots battle back and forth? Probably to a certain point, but there's going to be a level of human. I would also say construction is very complex, and to train AI on all of that, the data entry is really where it's going to go, right? I use a lot of AI softwares, and it is near impossible to put the amount of information I need to into it for it to give me the answer that I or anyone else in my team could give. So I don't think it's going to be a takes all jobs, but I think it's going to be a huge lever. A saying I heard recently was, everyone used to work on farms and then the tractor came out, right? Well, if you look at the last 50 years, everyone sits at a computer, or last 20 years, everyone sits at a computer at a desk, and then AI came about, right? So there will be a transition, and there's going to be pain and some loss through that, but no different than the assembly line. That's also an efficiency that will allow us to build onto better things in the future.
Got it. You're going in the business one, quite a few firms getting kicked out of the business. We covered a few big news on public adjuster failures, like MMA in Louisiana, few others. They just been sued by the government. There's a lot of fraud going on, and you have a big target on your back. How do you protect yourself from not getting sued, not being accused of insurance fraud? Do you feel like public adjuster is liable when they try to bill for something the contractor is not going to do, or they don't know if he's going to do it or not? Because I see a lot of those little, fake invoices or uh, inappropriate billing happening in PAs, essentially, and supplementing companies getting grilled for that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I see it definitely more on the supplementing side than I do on the PA side, given the PAs that I talk to. But I would say crime is crime, lying is lying, and stealing is stealing. There's no point in time where you're going to be able to steal, lie, and cheat and get away with it in any industry. So yes, I'm sure there are PAs and there's bad actors, but same thing on the contractor side, sending fake invoices, charging for drip edge but not replacing it, right? Charging to detach reset gutters. That's a huge one that no one talks about. Oh, we're going to detach reset the gutters, and to all the carriers out there, don't come at me and say, oh my gosh, we're going to investigate every single one. We could save $1,000 on these. A lot of times the gutters do have to be detached, reset, or manipulated to do the drip edge. But I think the issue is contractors, rather than arguing an estimate all the way through, and this goes to PAs as well, argue the estimate for what needs to be there. If the shingle pricing line item is too low, argue on that. Don't go and get these additional BS things added that's not actually going to get done. That's lying. You can't go, well, I'm going to get the chimney flashing paid for, but I'm not going to replace it, but I need that because my margin's not there on the roof. If that's the case, go talk about the roof. And I think that's where a lot of this, the lying, the cheating, and stealing is happening. And part of it is the insurance company, right? If you go try to talk to a desk adjuster who has no construction experience and explain the margins here is not good enough, we're going to need stuff added or these prices modified. It's almost impossible to get an adjuster to modify an exact line item pricing, no matter how many times you prove that it's absolutely wrong. And so I think it's a system that I don't think is necessarily contractors or PA's fault that they have to get additional line items, like you said, for work they're not doing to cover that. But I think if we, once again, being fragmented, when you have 1,000 contractors, Minnesota's the land of 10,000 contractors, and they refuse to all get together, and then you have 20 insurance companies that can sit down, push against legislation, unify against us, yeah, we're going to end up in the courts. We're going to get destroyed.
What do you think reasonable punishment is for intentional fake invoicing, billing? Like when the contractor knows he's not going to do it, like let's say, detach reset gutters. If he knows he doesn't practice it, but 100 invoices out of 100 have that line item, or it can be anything for that matter, what's the reasonable punishment? Is it a fine? Is it license suspension? Is it a strike? Who should enforce it? And do insurance companies have blacklist of contractors doing it?
Well, I don't know if they necessarily have a blacklist. I think I would have been on it by now. I've recovered millions and millions of dollars from insurance companies, worked with many organizations, many adjusters would see my name many of times. If there was a blacklist, I would, my goal would be to get on it for good reasons. Just this guy's too good, we got to stop him. So I don't think there's necessarily a blacklist you'll end up on, but I think like a lot of crimes and things in the contracting world, they'll make a case out of someone. And I think that's the best approach with it. Although I feel bad for whoever gets pinched. I don't think a fine, to answer your original question, what's a fair punishment? If it's just a fine and you can get $20,000 worth of detached reset gutters approved across 100 jobs and your fine's gonna be $2,000, well, that's not gonna stop people from doing it. And it's not gonna fix the core issue. They're gonna make a case out of someone that fraudulent, big lawsuit will end up on the news, contractors are stealing. And I would hope that we could fix it before getting there, because the second it's that limelight, it's just another mark on contractors or public adjusters. Very much go hand in hand here of, oh, look, they're fraudulent. Oh, they're stealing money. They're charging too much for your roof. Once again, it came from good intent. They were trying to get their margins that they need to hit to sustain a business. 96% contractors fail within 10 years. They're just trying to make money to pay their overhead. I know you see the big trucks and the watches and all the things with these contractors, but I've met a lot of them, and those margins aren't as crazy as you think when you put in all the effort it takes to do insurance
100%
claims.
they're not. I know that. I want to compare our industry to medical insurance industry. Recently, there have been a few busts, like multi-billion-dollar insurance fraud scams, and people argue that the reason our healthcare is so broken because there's so much corruption. That's why it costs what it costs, because there's so much scam. Like elderly people, like there's just our adult daycares, like they bill for stuff they don't do, all of it. Now My question is, if contractors stop committing fraud, like everybody bills for what they want, we only file claims that should be filed, do you think insurance companies will change their game if we change our game?
Absolutely not. There's no sense in it. If you allow, it's a tug of war, right? Both sides are pulling their way. If one side lets go, the other one's still pulling and they still won, right? So I don't think there's anything that on the contract side, if we stop, they're going to change. And that's not to, say insurance companies are evil or big organizations, right? But ultimately, same as most corporations and most industries, they have investors to answer to. Those board members are not looking at this roofing claim where this was paid out wrong. They're looking at the general margins, the general parts of the business. And any business owner or person that's, if you're a CEO of an insurance company, you should find opportunities to increase, the payouts. And I don't think that insurance companies should be controlled by the government. That typically, anything ran by the government doesn't always go very well. But there should be some level of accountability held to insurance companies. I think it's just we need accountability on both sides. I don't think if one starts doing everything perfect as an angel, that's going to fix the other.
How do you feel about recording our inspections? You're a public adjuster. You
For
go
sure.
on a roof, almost like a police does with the body cams.
Absolutely.
You record them, they record you. Why they're so against it?
It's useless. Rarely do I get to meet the person on the roof that makes the decision. That's a myth nowadays. So many times I meet out, even if it's an independent adjuster, and I go, hey, what are you seeing up here? It doesn't matter. Even if they answer the question, it's, well, everything has to go through the desk adjuster. And you got someone 1,200 miles away sitting behind a computer, scrolling through their photos, making the determination. That's what you see with a lot of these whistleblowers. If we submitted this, it got someone behind a desk that hasn't been on site, and they reduce it. Although I find it entertaining, I like watching those confrontational videos of an adjuster and a contractor on the roof, and they're bickering about it. And I think it shines light on what we deal with, because it is very real that there's legit damage and they're ignoring it. But I don't think it actually changes anything, nor would recording those conversations do much, because they've done a very great job of training those field people that, hey, whatever you say out here, make sure you remind them you don't make the decision.
How do you combat it though? Like, how do you combat the desk adjuster who's making it? You're like, I guess you have more power. How much power you have over someone in a cubicle?
Yeah. So coming from, I would say, the supplement side to the PA side, from the contract side, the PA side, I always tell people there's really a couple main levers we can pull. As a public adjuster, we have similar rights to a homeowner on a claim, in the aspect of, in most states, we can file a complaint with the Department of Commerce or Department of Insurance. So we have that leverage. Like, hey, if you don't reply to us for 60 days, we're going to file a complaint for you not communicating with us. We can request manager information, and then we can discuss policy. Those are like the three main levers. It's not some secret sauce. And when I was a submitter, I was like, man, if I was a PA, I'd win way higher rates. Although I can and do win at a higher rate, it's not the significant light switch. We have this instant leverage. What was your original question again?
How much leverage you have over someone, like
at a desk side,
at
yeah.
the desk?
If someone's sitting behind a desk looking at stuff, what we train on is documentation and going through and displaying it. So we take, obviously, company cam and a lot of softwares like that are great. We draw on the photos. I take, State Farm's a huge one where they refuse to acknowledge hail damage. I think it's more of, when you're dealing with someone behind a desk, it's playing a game of chess a little bit. You'll hear the term goal posting a lot in this industry, and like, oh, well, you have to make sure you get these questions answered before you present it to them, because that way you can use their answer to leverage against them and twist their arm. And although that is effective, what happens when it gets changed to a different desk adjuster, or that didn't provide a coverage decision? I think the best leverage we have against someone sitting behind a desk is provide better documentation than their field person did. And that happens a lot, where we submit things and they'll go, well, we're going to stick with our original inspection. And I'll list all the things that our document proved, right? It's the insured's duty on a loss to prove their loss. It is the homeowner's duty to prove their loss, whether by extension of a public adjuster, a contractor, whoever's submitting it, but it's their duty to prove it. Well, a lot of times we're brought on denied claims after they've been denied, so they already have their stance put. So now we need to review that and provide even better documentation, and then we can show we proved it, you haven't disproved it. That's the biggest lever we pull. We've proven it. Here's 100 photos. Every single one's marked, written on. Here's exactly why this is hail damage. You got crushed granules. Fiberglass matting is, pierced. You can feel it on the backside. Granules are displaced in a circular fashion. Your photo is just from a Seek Now or some ladder assist company going out saying it's just granular loss. That doesn't dispose, what testing did they do to make that determination? Our biggest lever is better documentation than what they have at their screen.
You're in the Midwest. I've interviewed public adjusters, other markets, Florida, Texas. Here, not a lot of contractors are using public adjusters. As a matter of fact, every single interview I've done with the public adjuster, all my, Iowa guys, Chicago. Well, Chicago is a little bit different because you can be both, but they say like, oh, we don't use any public adjusters. Like I've been in business 7 years here in Minneapolis. I think I used 1 or 2 times. When do you have to use it, or what's the best practices for homeowners and a contractor to bring public adjuster? Like what are scenarios where you must have a public adjuster?
Yeah, I'll answer. There's 2 questions there. The first one's really short. If you're a homeowner and you're filing a claim and you think the payout's low, if you file a claim, they come out, you don't think you got what you owe, just hire a public adjuster, right? Don't bring on contractors to try to argue and do the back and forth. Once already denied, just send to a public adjuster. That's my answer for homeowners. It doesn't hurt them to send in a claim. A lot of adjusters mean right. They might get a fair payout right on the start. Just do it that route. If you need help and you don't even know how to file a claim, hire a public adjuster. But that's the answer to the homeowner side. On the contractor side, yes, a lot of contractors don't use PAs. The reason being a lot of PAs charge too much.
I'll stop you right there. What's the reasonable amount public adjuster should charge for that to go away?
Enough to maintain their business. No different than anyone else. Our overhead's going to be very different than a large firm that's got 50, 60 public adjusters out there. So same as the contracting side. I'm not going to say a contractor should have 35% gross margin to maintain business. I wouldn't really answer for a public adjuster. It's going to be different, and it's going to be different on the types of claims you're doing, the volume you're able to produce, your efficiencies, and your skill set, right? If you've been doing it a long time and you're a mom and pop shop and you can only take 50 claims a year, yeah, you're probably going to have to charge a 15, 20% of the RCV to do it because you can pick and choose. You're an expert in that field. If you're a larger firm where you're trying to feed the mouths of 30 or 40 PAs on your team and you have supply work to them all, you're going to have to charge less, take a little less margin, but be at a different scale.
Do you know Anthony, famous TikTok public adjuster? He's out of New York. It's not somewhere like Philly, I think Philly. So I've debated him, and his business model, I believe he charges 25% of the claim, and he pretty much commits fraud, like, on TikTok, on social media. He tells homeowners, hey, I'm gonna get you this, and you can use this extra money to do this. Mm-hmm. Like, is it unethical or illegal for public adjuster to say, we're gonna get you a bigger number so you can pocket more, and your roof should not be 30, 40,000, your roof should be 15, 20.
Yeah.
Like,
I actually have this debate when I hire public adjusters for our team. And they're like, well, I want to write an estimate. The contractor gave us an estimate already. It was a denied claim there. He had a contractor. Contractor had their exact estimate. They're like, hey, we can do the roof for $20,000. But then I have PAs that come on my team. They're like, well, hey, we should get that to $25,000 or $30,000 because we could get that paid. We could add all these line items, change the pricing, do whatever, and argue for it. My view is, what's the insurance company owe for? They owe for a reasonable repair. If the contract said they can do the roof for 20, do the roof for 20, right? There's no reason for us to get 30 and then for them to go pay 20, right? And if you're submitting fake invoices to collect the delta on that, that's illegal. That's insurance fraud. No one questions that. What I see that would be, I guess, the legal sense of that is if they get additional items paid for and it's the ACV funds, right? The ACV funds you can take if your gutters get damaged. You can take that money, spend it wherever. It doesn't matter. Just know that your gutters aren't going to be covered again if you get hit by another storm. My personal belief is when you have an insurance claim, you should pay your deductible portion, whatever work's on there, get the work done, right? Window wraps, whatever else, get it done. If it's not doable, submit it to the insurance company why these other parts are ticked into it. But I don't make sense of going after all this work and stuff that's not going to get done or stuff that isn't damaged, right? And that's another thing you'll see where the roof was replaced 5 years ago and the roof has some damage, and then let's say they have steel gutters, for example. Well, the roof could get damaged, but the steel gutters might not have, but you found damage. Is it from that data loss? Is it, if it took 1.5 inch hail damage, you only had inch hail? It's really just using that scrutiny of like, go after what's actually damaged and what it's going to take to restore the home to pre-storm condition. Anything beyond restoring the home pre-storm condition, I'm not going to say it's always necessarily fraud, but you're going after things that aren't necessary, not needed, and the carriers know this, and they're going to get sick of paying out that money.
In your scenario, if a contractor says he can do the job for $20,000, and let's say you charge 20% for your work, mm-hmm. how are you getting paid? How is public adjuster getting paid? Because if they do for 20 and they hire you and it's still 20 because we didn't increase the number, now that 20% comes from the 20, isn't it?
Yeah.
So they lose 4K.
Yeah, there's going to be an out-of-pocket cost for hiring a professional to argue your claim, right? It's no different than, not to give grace to the carrier side. Trust me, I'm very passionate about being against the carrier side. But when you end up arguing with your insurance company, they have to send out 2 different adjusters. They pay a desk adjuster. They have to send someone on site, an engineer maybe for like 3, 4, 5 grand out there. They could be in $10,000, $20,000 before they end up approving your $20,000 claim. So yeah, there is an out-of-pocket expense, and there's more to a claim than just the RCV amount. And so I look at it that, yes, if your insurance company didn't give you a fair payout, you might have to pay an adjuster. Well, on their side, they did too, right? They had to pay for an adjuster. They had to pay for an engineer. So there's a little bit of this. Yes, it's going to be additional out of pocket, but that's not the end of the world. If you're paying $1,000 deductible, which is getting rare nowadays, but $1,000 deductible, and let's say you have to pay, if you're paying 10% to a public adjuster, another $2,000, so you're paying $3,000 out of pocket to get a $20,000 roof, well, that's still good. Do I think people should have public adjusters? No. Are they necessary? No. To your point earlier, if we did everything right, will the insurance company do everything right? Probably not. And on the same case, if the insurance companies just started paying out every claim that was owed, public adjuster would be out of a job, but they'd probably find a way to go back and argue for more money and more things and still not be satisfied and try to get more. And I think it's that greed back and forth. And that's where we kind of stand in this middle ground of do what's rightful, do what's owed, what work do you actually care about getting done, if the roof's damaged, get it paid for, and the fees are going to be associated to that.
You're in 8 markets. Which markets are the easiest to do insurance work?
None.
None?
None. I could name which ones are harder, but even the ones, Minnesota, for example, has case law around matching and line of sight. So you'd think it'd be easier than Georgia, where you don't have any laws like that. But believe it or not, I've got stuff paid for on what you would consider matching in Georgia, just as easy as Minnesota, just based off compatibility, reasonable appearance, what the house was prior. The difference between states is what precedents the courts and the statutes have set, right? Well, Nebraska is a great example of this. Nebraska doesn't have a line of sight law. Their matching law says the area. If the area is damaged, the insurance company owes for matching in that area. Now, if I look at the exterior home and the siding's damaged, I consider the area the exterior envelope. That is the area. The siding's damaged, it's the siding. Carriers have taken a stance that if it's damaged, it's just that wall, right? And that's what came in the Cedar Bluff case in Minnesota was, okay, now, if one wall's damaged, they owe for any wall that's visible from a public point of view. That's line of sight. Nebraska doesn't have a pretense on that. So sometimes carriers will pay for the full siding, sometimes they'll pay for one wall. Now, I talked to an attorney. I said, this needs to get ruled because I'm sick of only getting individual walls and then them not paying matching, all these things. There's other routes to get around the corners, but I was like, this needs to go. And the attorney, who's very seasoned, very well known in our industry, in Minnesota especially, says to me, he goes, Sam, what if they rule against you? What if they do say that it is just the wall? And now rather than, half the time you get the full siding, half the time you get the wall, every carrier now, it's just to that individual wall. And that's something we have to be mindful of, right? So to answer your question.
That's one way to be famous.
Yeah, that would get you in a lot of trouble. I would lose all business if I brought something to court, pushed up the ladder, brought to litigation, and the courts ruled against what everyone wanted.
Wow.
You don't want to be that guy. But I think to answer your question on which states are easier, the difference from state to state is what precedence has been set by courts and laws. And honestly, working in the states where there's not a precedent set gives you a little bit more breathing and a little bit more room to work than states where it has been set.
I was recently watching an interview with the founder of Morgan & Morgan down in Florida, Orlando, and they spent, they did like $2 billion in business, $400 million in marketing, huge firm. And one thing really stuck with me, he said their lawyers are better than other side lawyers. And those lawyers, insurance company lawyers, are, powerhouse, right? So something happened, car accidents, whatever they call them, emergency, or ambulance chasers, whatever. But their lawyers are legit and they're hardcore when they go prosecute or they bring those cases, they win. In our industry, when do we bring lawyers, and how do you feel about our lawyers that represents roofers and homeowners versus State Farm and Allstate lawyers? who is more powerful, and are we outnumbered?
It depends on the level of court that's going to, right? You have to remember that if it's a jury and jury trial, who's in the jury? Normal people. Who are normal people going to side with? Yeah, some might go with the multi-billion-dollar corporations that spend a ton of marketing, that they're your best friend and their best neighbor you've ever had, right? Some might lean that way and show a little bit of grace, but most of the time lean towards our side. And I think it's a lot of, what was the question again?
Whose lawyers are more powerful?
Whose lawyers are more powerful? I would say, even if the carriers might be slightly better and better educated, I believe that they're probably paying for the best out there. They have more leverage. They're more unified. They can get the better ones. Ours have a leg up, being that they're defending the public. And in a jury trial, it's always going to go with who's protecting the public.
When do you bring a lawyer? When do you need a lawyer? Like if you're the homeowner, claim is denied, you already hire a contractor, and now you bring PA. You're paying for engineers, or they're paying for engineers. When does the lawyer step in?
It's the same question in states that have one-party appraisals like Minnesota is, when do you go to appraisal, right? And it's going to be very different claim to claim. So don't take any of this as this is like the surefire, don't sue me, I didn't tell you to do this isn't legal advice. I'm not your PA. Consult with your PA. But very much on a claim to claim basis. A lot of states are certain carriers, one of the largest ones in Minnesota, if not the largest, recently changed their policies to a 1-year suit against us appraisal clause, right? So you have 1 year from the date of loss to go to appraisal. Appraisal is a great lever, or litigation, right? Imagine them kind of one and the same here. Is a great leverage when you're not getting your way, you can't get fair communication back and forth, they're not really assessing it, they're misinterpreting policy, they're refusing to acknowledge damage, right? They're standing on engineer reports that lack valid testing. They're doing a lot of things wrong. As a public adjuster, you can pound, but we only have what we can do over email, what we can document with them, right? There's a certain point where it needs to be escalated. And that lever is, hey, if you're coming close to that timeline, you better discuss that with your client as a public adjuster. Like, hey, this might need to go to appraisal. This might need to go to litigation. Hey, we have 60 days until this deadline. And, there's only so much we can do in a 60-day time frame. And then for you to still get the work done, it's very tough. So I think when to bring an attorney and when to bring it in is 60 days from when that suit against us clause or appraisal clause ends. And you see us a lot of claims that come across. I'm not saying the carriers look at it this way. I'm not speaking for them. But if I was a carrier and I owned an insurance company and I had a really angry homeowner that didn't think I was paying right, but we passed the 1-year suit against us clause a year ago and now they can't come after me for anything, you think I'm going to pay their claim at that point? You think I'm going to change my mind after a year of telling them no, and now they signed a contract, they can't sue me? No, I'm probably just going to let it drag out till they give up. The carrier, the house will always win. Same as a casino. They'll play the long game. They will win it all back. Same as the carrier. That's how they're looking at it. So if you need to stop them from playing that long game, that's when you would invoke it, before you hit that deadline.
What's your personal take on the situation in Florida? Do you blame carriers? Do you blame lawyers? Do you see contractors abusing the system there? Like, what's your take on the crisis, we call it?
Yeah, I'm not licensed in Florida and don't do work in Florida, but I've heard enough stories. I would say I couldn't even answer it, to be honest with you. There's so many things wrong in so many spaces. I couldn't give you an answer on how to fix it. So I probably can't give you an answer on what the root cause was. But it is a mix of contractors, but kind of if you remember our scenario earlier, well, if a contractor's trying to hit their margin and they know, hey, I'm gonna get this job today, but it's gonna take 2 years for me to build it, because there's gonna be all these permitting and all these other things the way, what's that contractor then gonna do? They're gonna charge a higher price than what today's prices are reflecting, because they know they're gonna drag it out, they're gonna have a carry. As a general contractor, a lot of times you're acting as an interest-free bank, right? You're giving loans to homeowners because you're buying their materials for them, you're giving loans to the insurance company.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, you're not asking for the money. So as a contractor, you're at that point. What are you gonna do now? Well, you're gonna beat up the insurance company. Okay, well, if you're an insurance company, you're getting beat up a lot, what are you gonna do? Start denying more things. When stuff starts getting denied, what happens? More public adjusters come in. Well, public adjusters come in, and all of a sudden there's more of them. Then there's competitions. They're going to charge more and or less and compete back and forth. And so I think it's a waterfall. To your point earlier, it's a tug of war game of one side pulling one way, one pulling the other. And there's no opportunity in Florida where they're all just going to let go and go, you know what, guys, we were all wrong, right? Let's fix it all today. I think it's going to be a huge trying to untangle the yarn to get back to what it was, but I don't see a situation where it can get unwound in a reasonable amount of time, or does anyone really have an answer on how to fix it?
I personally think it's agreed on all players, even like tile manufacturers, like discontinuing tile because a storm is coming and you're going to keep producing tile. There's so many levers to it. But I agree. I mean, it's sad. I've been in Florida many times. I've been on the roofs many times. You go on a roof that should be $10,000 and you hear the story that at the end of the day, it's $80,000 claim because PA got involved, public adjuster got involved, and to your point, they have costs too. So if they pay it out 80, it's probably 120, and the roof should be $15,000-$20,000. I feel like everybody just see dollar signs, and everybody's just like, let's go, let's push, let's abuse. But it is abuse of the system.
Yeah.
You know, those courts, I mean, it's a lot of paperwork and everything. I hate that kind of waste.
It's a pendulum. Insurance companies start just paying for stuff and approve it, more people are going to flood in, try to file claims that aren't necessary. What are they going to do? All right, insurance is going to pull it back. And so it is going to be this swing. And I think we're kind of in an extreme right now in a lot of states and a lot of parts of the country. We're kind of at the top now, and you're starting to see it spin and spin and spin. And it's about to drop back the other way. And it's at this point where a lot of contractors and a lot of people in our industry, like I get a lot of phone calls. Should I get out of it? Is the gold rush over? No, it's not. Like we're at this point where there's the most pain. That's the time you should probably stick through because it's going to swing back the other way. And who knows, 5 years from now.
It's almost like market. Like you don't sell when everything drops. You hold till it goes back out. I love that mentality. I went in business when everything crashed after 2008, 2009. Everybody was getting out of business. Yes, it's hard. Yes, you work for less. But then it removes all the weak players from the market. And I would tell people this, it's harder than ever to be in business. I think ABC supply right now 20% down. Like this summer is, everybody's holding their cash because who knows what Trump is going to do? Who knows what insurance company is going to do? So it's not easy, but it's survival of the fittest. Love it.
I think it's actually a blessing to homeowners and to a lot of people because when this happens, a lot of bad actors are getting out. A lot of people get pinched. And when we get back to that equilibrium, there's a moment there where we have the best contractors that were able to wait out the storm, or best public adjusters as well. And now they're at, where they're getting stuff approved at a higher rate. Homeowners are happier. They have more clients. They're all making money, right? Like when that swing happens, when we go through our middle stage, that's when it's great. And of course, it'll swing back the other way. But we're right on the crest of it, right? The worse it gets, the better it's going to be when it drops back down.
Yeah. Let's talk about UPPA laws. I see a lot of public adjusters now accusing contractors violating the word is definitely overused. What mistakes contractors are doing, and when contractor really need a public adjuster? When is that line when he breaks the law and he should not be an expert?
Yeah, I think it is overly clear to everyone where that line is, and I'm confused how there's any confusion about it.
Okay, clear it up.
As a contractor, you can't discuss policy. And you can't negotiate or settle, right? You can't choose a settlement amount. That's it. Just avoid those two things and you're fine. I've submitted thousands of files. I've had a lot of success, millions of dollars won without ever discussing policy. The time to use a public adjuster is when they use policy to turn you down, right? I had one the other day where they misinterpreted policy. They came back and said, we don't owe for undamaged material. Well, guess what? In the policy, that's actually part of an endorsement. An exclusion on there. It said, we don't owe for undamaged material due to mismatch. But they left those next two words off. Well, if you're a contractor and they send you that, you're like, okay, they only owe for what they're paying for. As a PA, I know what the policy says. I can get a full copy of the policy, go in there and go, no, they just left two words off. When they use policy like that to stonewall use a contractor, that's the time to use a PA. Everything else, I think it's a huge misunderstanding. I think there's a lot of fear tactics. I think, of course, once again, back to business. If you're a public adjuster and you go around and tell contractors that they shouldn't do supplementing and they shouldn't write their own estimates and they shouldn't even deal with insurance claims, any insurance claim should go to you. That makes sense for your business. Yes, great idea. But don't lie about it, right? Just be honest. Hey, you have to be mindful of X, Y, Z. No different than any other industry. You have to know the rights and the wrongs. As long as you avoid those, you're fine. I don't think it needs to be this big blown out thing.
Can contractor call himself as a storm damage expert?
Oh, damage expert, yeah. So if you look back...
Claim expert?
For sure. Minnesota had a document, the 2010-4 FAQ page. And it was Department of Labor and Industry in Minnesota put together all these FAQs about what can you do as a contractor, what you can't. And that's kind of been the basis for the last however long now, 15 years, where you can look at that and go, what can I do? What can't I? You can 100% be an expert on damage, pricing, construction, repairability. That is 100% your field as a contractor, and you're right. You just can't put policy expert. I would avoid the words insurance and the words policy. Everything else you put on the wrap on your truck, doesn't matter. Storm damage expert, hail damage expert. You can be an expert. And then honestly, a lot of contractors spend more time learning that than a lot of public adjusters do. So they probably are experts in it.
How about contractor promising to maximize the claim?
Well, that would be interesting. I will say a contractor most likely can maximize the majority of the claims that they handle, right? Not that they handle them, but claims that come through your system. They probably can maximize them. I wouldn't recommend advertising that. That's probably not a good sales pitch. You're kind of asking for that spotlight, right? When you start talking about the claim and the settlement amount and what it's finally going to be and all this, you're kind of just asking for that to come down. Is it necessarily legal? Probably not, right? You can go around and say a lot of things.
Getting a lot of attention.
Yeah, but it's not fair, and I would consider it kind of, how do I say, unfair marketing. You're kind of lying a little bit, right? Because how are you going to make sure that's the case if you don't know the policy? Because you as a contractor, back to the other example, you could tell a homeowner, yep, I got you everything you could. They're not paying for this because they don't owe for undamaged material. Okay, well now you've lied to that homeowner. You don't have the ability to actually maximize your claim the way a PA could. Come and discuss that policy.
And I feel like when it's really can bite you as a contractor is when you attract unnecessary risk. I think the same goes with IRS. I met a lot of very, very wealthy people. They don't like to show off or talk about how much money they have. So if you go on camera and say, I'm worth $10 million and my payroll is $1 million a week, right? Who are you attracting? Like, what if you get reported to IRS? Like, they can check it. So now you open yourself to investigation. Like, let's look at your record here. Well, the same with maximizing your claims and other stuff. Maybe you're not breaking the law, and even if you're telling the truth, but now you're attracting that attention that you don't need. You don't need insurance companies and, well, yeah.
Make sure you know your audience when you're marketing. That's what that comes down to.
True. How do you see homeowners are using AI, like ChatGPT, for example? Because that's what I want to see. For me as a homeowner, if I have a salesperson or public adjuster, right, I can ask ChatGPT anything. Like I can fact check my contractor, my PA. Do you see homeowners are using it more and more?
Absolutely. I had a claim I took on recently as a public adjuster, and the homeowner had used ChatGPT to write their responses. And I looked at, they have these long written out emails, and typically you can tell it's ChatGPT just because there's M breaks and certain ways it structures it, but it didn't have that. It didn't have the horizontal lines that it adds. It was like, I called her, I said, you did a great job. Like, do you want a job? Like, you could do this for a living. And she goes, oh no, that's all ChatGPT. And I was like, well, that's fantastic. Yeah, homeowners are using it on their claims, right? Yeah. Any homeowner that's not getting what they think they deserve, they're gonna put all that information in there. Now, the result's only as good as the data you put in.
Of course.
And same as some contractors don't know policy as well as they think they do. Some homeowners don't know construction insurance claims as well as they think they do. So it's going to come down to what you put in is what you're going to get out. And I don't think a homeowner typically will have all the data necessary to probably get the prompts they'll really need to get overturned.
But they at least can filter a lot of BS. Insurance companies, BS, PA, like, for me, that's the best use of AI. Do like that initial research. Like I use it all the time now. When I see advertising commercial for like supplement, something like, hey, this is good, NID, whatever. I'll go to ChatGPT. Is it really that good? Is it overrated? Can I buy it cheaper? Do I really need it? Is there side effects? And I'll just break it down like crazy. Because I'm not buying like $200 pill until I do my research. And back in the day, it's very limited. Today, you get freaking articles within seconds. And I feel like the same goes like, if you have a door knocker coming at your place and offering you whatever, skies, just hire us. Now you can check that person while you're talking to him.
I would say the one thing to be super mindful of is your AI starts to learn things from you, but it's once again, data in is what you get data out. Mm-hmm. If you go to it and say, is dihydroxide toxic? Can I die from inhaling dihydroxide? It's going to come back and say yes, right? What's dihydroxide? Water, H2O. Yeah. If you inhale it, you'll die, right? So you could go and someone be like, oh my gosh, H2O is poisonous, all this,
sure.
Because you put in there, if I inhale it, right? If you put in our door-to-door salesman bad, What's it going to come back with? It might add a little bit, they're not necessarily bad, but it's going to give you a list of all the things, right? It can tell
Sure.
that precedence that you're putting in there and that pretense you set with it. So what you ask for is what you'll get out. So making sure to put it unbiased, or maybe giving it a different, personality, hey, act as this person to give me this result. That would probably be a better way, but I don't think a lot of people go into the prompt engineering that deep, and they end up creating an echo chamber for themselves to reassure themselves of things that aren't necessarily true.
Got it. What's number one lead generation source right now for both public adjuster and contractor?
Consider very different. As a public adjuster, going out and getting to know contractors, explaining to them what you do, when to use you. You may have mentioned earlier about, public adjusters going to a lot of marketing events and trying to get contractors and charging really high fees. Go talk to contractors and find out what they actually need, right? And I'd say that applies to contractors too. Go talk to homeowners and find out what they need. Hey, do you want us to come to your door the second after a storm's done? Most probably don't, right? Find out how they want to be marketed to, find out what your client wants, and build back from that. I can't speak contractor to homeowner right now, it's working, but for PA to contractor, it's calling contractors, cold calling them, going to their offices, meeting with them, and just saying, what do you need? Like, what claims right now are bothering you? Oh, this carrier is refusing to pay for this continuously, or this carrier is misquoting this part of the policy. We know they are, like, this is a repeat thing. And it's just knowing your customer base. So that is the number one lever you can use for marketing in any industry, though. Go talk to your customers, past customers, current customers, people that aren't your customers. Go talk to your competition's customers and find out, what do they want from you? And then offer that.
My personal experience with a lot of PAs, same actually with that I have with some contractors who are trying to get in the commercial. So contractors at one point become gold diggers. They're like, I'm tired of residential. They'll get one good commercial job and they're shutting down residential business, go all commercial. And I've seen the public adjusters doing the same thing. Oh, I'm multifamily. I'm like all big, right? How do you call it? Like large loss.
Large loss, yeah.
Large loss. Such a popular word now, but if you have $20,000 claim, they wouldn't even take you. Why is that? Is it that gold digging mentality? Is it because it's so hard and time consuming to work in the smaller claims?
If I ask you, will you come to my house tomorrow and mow my grass for $25? You're probably going to say no. You don't want to. It's not worth the time.
I like small job, not 100. I'll do it for 100, not for 25.
Okay, $100 an hour, you'll come mow my grass, right? But even then, you might do it once, twice, you'll get sick of it, right? It's business. It is supply and demand. As most public adjusters, I think what we have to remember is, insurance companies are massive, contractors tend to be medium-sized, public adjusters tend to be small. They are mom and pop. Almost originally when I worked on the supplement side for the company, I said, hey, we have a lot of claims. They're doing $40, $50 million a year. That contract company I oversaw our supplements. Hey, we have this many claims, 400 claims died last year that are, pushed back, and we're going for re-inspects, and now so-and-so's denying re-inspects. Let's go get public adjusters. So I personally went on and cold called a ton of public adjusters. And I would say 80, if not 90% of them I called, oh yeah, how many people do you have working for you? It was a guy and his wife did his administrative work every single time. Go call a ton of PAs around you. They're almost all a guy and his, or vice versa, right? But a married couple, one does the PA side, one does administrative, and that's the whole company. And so if that is your company business model, we have contractors like that too. If you're a contractor and you're a one-man shop, you can't take on $20,000 roofs, 50 of them a year. That's going to really run you thin. And even then you're only going to make, 100,000 at the end of it. Probably not what you should get after you've been in an industry for 30 years and become an expert. I think it's a public adjuster's right to do that. Our goal with our business model is building around residential claims and sticking with residential claims. It is, our goal is to help people to get things owed that are owed. You can make a business model around it, but it's going to be how you built that business model. If it's you and one other person, you can only handle 30 claims a year. You're going to pick the best ones that come to you. If you're built the other way, and very few public adjusters are built that way, because it's a tight industry and it's hard. It is a very hard industry.
How do you see payment changes? Because I remember even 10, 15 years ago, insurance companies were just sending checks to homeowners. Then contractors start interrupting. Now we have a third-party payment processes. I know a lot of supplement companies demand that the insurance company pay them and they pay contractors. There's just so many, what's the best way to deal with the payment?
On the public adjuster side, there's softwares out there like Ink that are essentially like DocuSign for checks. You upload pictures of the check, all your information, you virtually sign it, they virtually signed it, and you can put in there this percentage goes to the PA, this percentage goes to the contractor, this percentage goes back to the homeowner, these dollar amounts, right? And you can split it up. Ultimately, I think that we look at claims different because there's money involved with them. I wish every single check, every time I get a check in my house, I have to go through and process this. I got to bring it to the office, bring it to the bank, go do this, bring it to Inc., right? All these things. And I think ultimately you should go to the homeowner, right? You should be able to offer a service so good that the homeowner is willing to pay you. Now, obviously on the medical side of things, right? They have assignment of benefits. As a public adjuster, we get put on a lot of checks. And it's nice to have that fail safe. But when I came from the contract side, became a PA and my name started going on checks, I was like, yeah, like it's great that I can make sure I get paid, but this doesn't seem right. This was your claim, this is your money. I offered you a great service, right? So you'd be willing to pay me, right? That's the whole point of capitalism. I do a service for you, you give me money, and at the end we both say thank you. That's the best part of it, right? That's how a sale should work. If you have to hold someone's money hostage, get paid, you didn't do a good job. Now, it doesn't mean you didn't get their claim paid as a PA. It might have been you didn't communicate with them. They didn't know what was going on. Then 8 months later, they get a check. They didn't even know you existed, right? And I think that's where money for the claim should go to the homeowner, in my opinion. The public adjuster should focus on offering a better service. The contractor should focus on offering a better service. I think it's a crutch that we get to put our name on the checks. It's not necessary in a lot of cases.
Just lack of trust in the industry is, I feel like it's at the peak, which is, not surprising with all the stories that we see, with all the bankruptcies. Everybody's filed bankruptcy. Like there's a PA is going out of business. I don't think I've seen lawyers going out of. Actually, the MMA one, they have a lawyer involved there. I think crumble, but usually it's the contractors and PAs.
Business is hard. And no one's going to question
insurance
that.
Companies too. Yeah. They fall too.
Yeah, business is hard. Sustainable business models are even harder to make. It's hard to keep customers happy. It's hard to collect money. Go talk to anyone that's been in business for 10 years. Is it easy? Probably not. I've owned businesses for going on 6 or 7 years now. At no point did I go, this is easy. This is great. I love it. Everyone loves me. I have no angry customers. Everyone loves me. All my employees are happy. It doesn't happen, right? Business is exhausting. It's hard. I don't think we should be critical about PAs, contractors, or even insurance companies going out of business. It's very hard to make customers happy and get money. That's just going to be inevitable. So yeah, a lot are going to go out. I think the contracting space, the main killer of it, same as public adjusters, cash flow, right? Not want to get into super deep in the money side of the business, but cash flow is king over and over again, because as a contractor, you're buying materials, you're doing all this stuff. You're an interest-free loan to all these other people that, your customers, the insurance company, the supplier, right? Now, supplier's kind of further down the road, right? They're an interest-free bank and then some. At least they get charged late fees. Contractors don't. As a PA, same thing. I'm going to put, sometimes 60 days, sometimes 180, 360 days into a claim, and I get paid at that, right? We don't charge retainers. We don't charge up front on a lot of stuff. So it's, it's hard to build a business model around waiting for the money. But that's part of when you get in this game, that. If you're doing insurance restoration, any aspect of it, we're waiting for the ones above, the big carriers, just give us a little bit of cheese, right? Give us a little bit of crumbs. And they hold as long as they can before they give it to us. That's just part of the model, and you have to account for that.
How much money do you need to start a PA firm?
$0. Yeah, if you know what you're doing, $0. You don't have to start it full time, right? Yeah. You can be
side hustle.
Yeah, you can start a side hustle. You can grow it. You could start with a $10,000 investment and hire an assistant for a month or two and hope you make the money by then, right? You can do a lot of different things, but I would consider it no different than any other business. There's big PA firms that start with $0, and there's ones with a ton of investors, right? If you gave me $1 million right now and said grow your business, I could probably do that pretty easily. There's a challenge on the side of not having that money to get started.
Do we have too many public adjusters? Do we need more?
Same as I said about roofers, walk outside and ask someone what a public adjuster is. My parents live in Florida. I told them I became a public adjuster. They said, what's that? I said, you're in Florida. They got billboards and everything. Then the next day I get a call. Oh yeah, I saw there's billboards all over for public adjusters. People don't know what they are. I don't think there's too many. I think back to the original point is they're fractionalized, right? They're spread out. They're mom and pop shops. They're not organized, right? And I don't think we need to be a huge conglomerate to the level the carriers are. But there should be a little bit more of like, if we're all going to be these little mom and pop shops, we should probably get together, market together, build something together to be able to get that awareness out there. So I think we could use a lot more, actually.
What's your most controversial take on claims in the industry?
It's a good question. As a public adjuster, this is really frowned upon to say, but insurance companies aren't actually evil, right? They're a little misguided.
Love it.
They care about their profits more than people a lot of times, but they're not evil. The adjusters argue with. at the end of the claim, you can typically have a good conversation. It's not come from ill intent. They're looking for their profits, but so are we on our side.
Okay. I would add to that that most contractors, if they would be in a position of insurance companies that have that power, they would do way worse stuff. And people who usually point fingers and say how bad insurance companies are, they probably don't have a character to do anything better in that situation.
I could see that. I would say flip of that though, if you put a carrier or an insurance company in a contractor's shoes, they'd probably a CEO from an insurance company could probably build a way better roofing company than most contractors. And they would probably do it through some tactics that most would consider unfair, unjust, and probably not right. But they would return a lot of money to their shareholders if they were on this side. It's just a game of chess, and sometimes they're better than us.
Yes, they are. What's something you absolutely hate what public adjusters are doing?
Telling everyone that every claim needs a public adjuster. That every claim they should be on, even if it's a clear slam dunk right from the start, right? I think public adjuster's spot is once a claim's denied. Very few claims will I take from the start. If a homeowner's never filed a claim before, sure, bring on a public adjuster. If you have no experience, you don't have a contractor you trust, right? You can bring on a public adjuster to guide you. But not every claim needs a public adjuster. It's really only the denied or underpaid ones you should be hiring a public adjuster, in my opinion.
What's the first thing you tell a client who never filed a claim?
Talk to someone that has. No different than anything, right? If you haven't done something before, talk to someone that has, find out the do's and don'ts. The best thing a homeowner can do is go through and document the claim, document any damages they see. But homeowners are, if we're talking storm claims, they're not going to climb their own roof. They're not going to be able to do all that. They need to find someone to partner with, whether it's a PA, whether it's a contractor that they trust that can do the documentation. Find someone that can get all the documentation prepared, meet the adjuster, show the adjuster damages, but get help. Don't try, you have to remember insurance carriers spend almost more than anyone on commercials, convincing homeowners that they're your best friend, they're here for you, they'll always do right by you. They have to spend that much in marketing because it's not always the case, right? There's a reason they have to leverage it that direction. And so get help. Don't go into it blind. Don't go into it with no research. Understand what their desired outcome is versus yours and how to navigate that.
What's one thing insurance companies don't want homeowners to know?
I don't know if I have an answer for that. Without saying something that's going to put me in a lot of trouble, really. I mean, obviously, an insurance company would benefit from a homeowner not knowing their policy, not knowing the process, not understanding how to read estimates, right? I don't think a homeowner necessarily needs to learn those things, but the more in the shadow the homeowner is, the more leverage the insurance company will have in that claims process. I'm not saying they'll abuse it or that they'll do wrong with it, but I mean, if you talk to most homeowners about how to even file a claim, most would go, maybe it's on my app, but they'd have no clue. And so I don't think there's much that they don't want them to know because homeowners already know so little about really what goes on in the claim game.
What about re-inspections? I feel like a lot of homeowners don't know that they can get a second opinion from the same company. First adjuster comes out, denies the claim or writes the repair, and then second comes in and just writes a check.
Yeah, that practice, I'll tell you, is the number one reason that we actually get contractors sending us files nowadays, is they're not able to get re-inspects the way they used to.
Oh, really?
They used to be able to just send in photos, say, we disagree, and carriers would send out. We go talk to a majority of contractors, they're like, yeah, so-and-so carrier, are not sending out re-inspects. They refuse. And what we see is a lot of carriers are standing on the fact that we did a thorough inspection, we already documented it, you haven't sent us anything. Not to deep dive too far on this, but we had a great example of this where we sent in photos of clear hail damage to the shingles, and they said, nope, we already inspected the roof. We didn't see that. I said, well, so you inspected this shingle and this hail hit right here? Yep, we inspected the whole roof. So I said, so there's nothing I could submit to you from the roof that would allow for a reinspection. There's nothing else. And they're just like, yeah, we inspect the full roof. I said, awesome, send me your photos. And they were from 4 feet above the shingles, blurry as could be, no determination. It was from a third party. They didn't even write a report. It was just a photo report. And I was like, that doesn't disprove this, right? But that is the stance that they took a lot recently was, they're not even doing re-inspects because we already looked at the roof. Why would we look at it again? That lever has been squished down a ton. So yes, to answer your question, yes, homeowners don't know about re-inspects. Most of them don't even know about public adjusters. Hell, I would say a lot don't even know about contractors, right? I've gone door to door. I've knocked door 15,000 doors myself. You know how many times the door gets slammed? I'd knock that same door 8 times throughout a year. Every time the person would slam the door and not answer. they're not getting help from a contractor. They're not getting anything. And guess what? When their roof leaks a year or two from now, they're going to file a claim. They're going to know nothing. They're going to have no connections in the space. They're going to have no one to help them. So yeah, insurance companies don't need to hide anything from them. They already don't know. They don't want help from those that want to help them.
Good. How do you handle haters and bad reviews?
It's a great question. If you did everything you could, actually did everything you could to supply a great service, well, then you better write down what's in that bad review and take it to heart and actually change those things of your business, of your process, talk to your team about it. Obviously bad reviews and haters are terrible. A lot of public adjusters don't like me. When I go talk to any of the big companies, what do they say? They're like, well, no, we should be on every claim. We very much disagree. I come from the contractor side. I'm a homeowner. I don't think a PA is needed on every file. What was the question again?
How do you handle hate and bad reviews? You answer it.
Yeah, it's take it as criticism, take it as advice, learn from it, and run with it.
What's the boldest move you ever did to win a client?
To win a client or to win a claim?
Or claim.
Boldest way to win a claim. I once got a hold of the vice president of a certain insurance carrier. Their personal cell number turned out to be, didn't know that when I got the number, and called them and just leaned into them about how what they were doing was wrong, it's unjust, and really led into it. And miraculously, that claim did get paid out. But would not recommend. If there was ever a reason I'd get on a blacklist, it was probably that phone call.
Oh, wow. What's the wildest thing you've seen during the roof inspection as a contractor or PA?
So I don't have a good answer for that one.
So all right,
Yeah.
That's all good.
I mean, what do you see? Some missing shingles or, a bullet sitting on the roof?
What's your biggest win for the client so far of claims for you?
Financially speaking?
Either, like it could be just a cool story.
I would actually say I don't have an exact claim, but the number of claims that I've been brought on where the homeowners, when I called to tell them that their stuff's approved, are in tears. That's the biggest win for me. And not that I want them to cry, but they go, yeah, we fought forever. We've gone through 3 different contractors. They kept dropping us. They couldn't get it overturned. And you guys stepped in and got it won. And it's because they were stonewall policy. There's nothing the contractors could do. But rather than just swallowing the ego and telling the homeowner, hey, I know our truck said we're insurance, storm restoration experts, but we can't actually win your claim. And then we step in and we're able to get it won. And they're crying, just so happy, like, oh my gosh, I've been waiting this long. And, we thought it would never happen. Those are the best ones.
When do you tell clients or potential clients, contractor or homeowner, no? Like when do you not take?
If it's past the suit against us or appraisal clause timeline, it's very hard for us to take it on because there's not many levers beyond us that we can pull at that point. We will take them on and we will fight them. Actually, can I redo that one?
Yeah,
let's redo it. Ask it again.
Sure. When do you tell your clients or potential clients no, homeowners or contractors?
The main time I see is when the claim's already paid what I would consider fair. It's my job as a public adjuster to have a certain level of unbiasedness and make sure that they're getting what they're owed. And if I look at an estimate and go, hey, I know what the margins are in roofing, I come from a contract background, that's good. All these other miscellaneous things aren't worth going after, or they're not damaged, or you're not actually there, you're not actually gonna do that work. That's when we're turning stuff down, is the fraudsters and the ones that are trying to get every little penny on stuff. It's, our job is to make sure the homeowner's property gets restored. If everything's there and allotted for that, that's a no-go for us. There's nothing beyond that for us to do.
Got it. How do people find you, do business with you, hire you? I know you're in 8 markets. Is it the website? Is it social media?
Yeah, social media. Find us on Facebook, Clarion Claims Group. If you want to just reach out to us, clarion.claims, the whole website, clarion.claims. You can go in there, fill out the form, submit your info. We'll call you directly. It'll be me or someone else on my team will call you and personally walk through if you have a claim you're struggling with, if you're a contractor and just kind of want advice on things. We have a large pool of contractors we work with. We work with a ton of homeowners, and our ultimate goal is just to help a ton of people. So if you need anything, clarion.claims or find us on Facebook.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.